Have you ever felt, no, known on some deep level that there's more to this world than what you can see? I want you to remember a time when you knew with every part of your being, even if it was just for a moment. Let's go back there. This phenomenon is happening to thousands of people, but it's rarely understood. Listening alone is not enough to grasp this story. You need to feel it. And if you can, maybe, just maybe, the reason you clicked this video is because it's happening to you. The night was quiet, a kind of silence that felt alive, like the world was holding its breath. His friends had returned to their tents as Nathan sat alone in the field, looking up at the stars, the vastness above whispering a truth he'd soon come to know. For the first time in his life, he felt a sense of the all-consuming cosmos above. He felt a sense of peace, and something else. He shifts, brushing this new sensation aside, but something sticks. A pulse behind his thoughts. Another light wind sweeps over him, and he brings the feeling back. Only this time, it's stronger. Although not sure what, he feels something is there, just out of sight, waiting for him. Could there be more to this moment, or was he simply searching for answers in the vast emptiness? Nathan yawns, again brushing off the sensation. The light from his cell phone hits his eyes, and he realizes it's 3:22 a.m., and he heads back to his tent for the night. The next morning, still groggy, he unzips his tent and steps outside. The smell of morning dew permeates his nostrils, and the sensation that he'd quickly forgotten returns, sharp and undeniable. He scans the bright colors of his surroundings, as if seeing the vibrancy in the trees and the flowers for the first time. Their colors are radiant and almost glimmering. He notices a few dew droplets on individual blades of grass, as if he was seeing in high definition. Curious about the sensation, he found himself distant from his friends as he strolled the massive property in awe of its beauty. He noticed the damp grass with a fresh scent of pine and the quiet sound of the waves beating the shoreline. And then, something incredible. By focusing intently on his senses, he could deepen the sensation, making it more intense. He focused on the sound, the colors, and the gentle wind on his skin, and he went deeper and deeper. He felt the gentle breeze even before it met his skin. But this scared Nathan, so he snapped himself out of it. Before the stars called to him, he moved through life on autopilot, juggling college assignments, late night shifts at the gas station, and college parties on the weekend. Yet in the background, there was a quiet longing in him, a nagging sense that something was missing, something deeper that he couldn't quite name. When he left the cottage to return to his busy life, he wondered how it would affect his sensation that he'd grown so curious about. But to his surprise, it only got deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually, Nathan became a master of it. Regardless of where he was, the crowded school hallway, sitting in traffic, at a concert or a party, Nathan could summon the sensation that was now always with him. Though sometimes only a small flickering flame, he could elevate it almost instantly. His friends, his job, even his college classes all seemed so irrelevant, as if the world he once knew was fading from view. Should he go back to his old life, or was something pulling him toward a future he was destined to explore? One night, after a particularly busy day, Nathan sat in his backyard looking up at the vast night sky as he'd done almost every night before. This night, though, the sensation would make an undeniable development that would change his perception, opening a portal to the reality of the universe we live in. Literally. As he looked up, he noticed how much the sky reminded of the first night at the cottage. Getting deeper and deeper into the feeling, the stars became even brighter. Unnaturally bright. And then, without warning, Millions of thin, luminous lines spread across the vast sky until every star was interconnected. Nathan couldn't believe his eyes. He was witnessing what looked like the most intricate movie effect he'd ever seen. Amazingly, the lights got brighter, and his sensation deeper. That's when he saw something that made even the web of lights insignificant. As quickly as the lines appeared, a brilliant swirling pattern resembling draining water began to form in the sky, incorporating all the lines and stars into its brilliant motion. Nathan was locked in place with energetic fear as he stared into the center of the growing vortex, but something made him want to step forward rather than run. Was this his chance to truly understand? Was this why he'd been feeling so strange, so different for weeks now? By this point, the formation had grown so incredibly large, its sheer scale gave him a feeling of vertigo. Just as the array had almost expanded to consuming the entire night sky, a loud, balanced voice permeated his conscience.
Don't be afraid. I'm here to welcome you to
Startled, Nathan scrambled to his feet. When he looked up, the sky had returned to normal. He felt a light wind, and he heard a cricket chirping that had been silenced during the event. Heart pounding and adrenaline rushing, Nathan retreated back into the comfort of his own home. He went down the stairs and into his basement. He slept there that night, trying to get as far away from the encompassing sky as possible. Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the cusp of something monumental, but doubt gnawed at him. The sensation had become more than a curiosity. It was now an unshakable part of his life, a force he couldn't ignore. But what if he was losing touch with the real world? What if the pull towards something greater was just a distraction, a dangerous obsession that would tear apart everything he thought he knew about the world? The next day, Nathan droned through his classes, only able to think about what happened the night prior. His friends invited him to a party that night, but Nathan didn't even acknowledge the offer. All he could think about was finishing the school day so he could get home and sit under the sky, hoping it would happen again. Finally, nighttime rolled around. With nervous anticipation, he walked out his back door onto his cool, damp grass and sat down just as he did the night before. He realized that this night was not as clear as the previous. The stars were out, but the faint atmosphere made them a little less bright. A small cloud in the left of the sky blocked out a few stars. Did I miss my chance? Would this still work? Nathan started to focus on the cool grass and gentle wind against his cheek. As the sensation deepened, the cricket that was chirping got quiet. The wind died down like the night before. Then, as if on cue, lines began to spread across the sky connecting the stars, and the familiar swirl appeared in the middle, this time even incorporating the small cloud into its vortex. The entire perimeter of the sky was now swirling with light, and a few dim, distorted stars in the middle resembled Van Gogh's A Starry Night. And then, the same voice returned.
I don't mean you any harm. I'm here to welcome you to Libertheria.
Shaking, he forced himself to stay sitting. He was not about to miss what could be his last opportunity. The shimmering vortex was now not only covering the entire sky. Amazingly, it was descending in all directions. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange energy that made the hairs on his arms stand up. The shimmering vortex seemed to be breathing, pulsing in rhythm with Nathan's heartbeat. The walls had now changed to what looked like threads of light cascading down like a waterfall. His body became lighter, as if he was no longer tied down by familiar gravity. The luminous canopy had now met the ground, completely encapsulating him as it continued to pulse with brilliant hues of blue, green, and yellow, shades of these colors he almost couldn't comprehend. Then, with one final brilliant pulse of green, a hole appeared in the top of the canopy, exposing the night sky once again. They dissolved slowly from the top down, eventually reaching the ground. However, something was very different. Nathan was shocked to see that the familiar night sky had been replaced with an incredible canopy of brilliant constellations. A vibrant and vast sky dwarfed the one that he'd come to know so well. Visible solar systems of all colors, comets zipping in every direction, and most incredibly, a colossal blue and green planet where the moon used to be, except this planet looked much closer. When he finally straightened his head to meet the horizon, his amazement turned into unease as he scanned the very unfamiliar environment. He was no longer in his backyard. Instead, he stood in a large meadow. In the distance stood 100-foot tall trees covered with thick vines, shimmering in hues that he couldn't name. The air was pristine, like taking the first breath after a heavy storm. He felt light, but also grounded as he took in the brilliance of his new surroundings. To his right, a towering mountain dominated the horizon. No building or summit that he'd ever seen before even came close to its size. Its peak soared so high that it was obscured by a thin atmosphere. From its side cascaded a breathtaking sapphire blue waterfall that spilled down in endless waves. The waterfall's distant roar was deep yet soothing, like a steady, thunderous melody that seemed to harmonize with the landscape. As this new reality set in, Nathan realized that it was no longer night. It was a strange time of day, one that felt foreign and unfamiliar, but also beautiful and welcoming. Like dawn, but also like dusk? The land was beautiful, surreal, and so alive. Feeling vulnerable in the vast environment, he heard the same voice from the vortex, only this time, the voice didn't seem to be coming from inside his head. It was coming from behind him.
Welcome to Libertheria.
Comfort washed over Nathan as he turned and placed eyes on the entity for the first time. There stood something incredible, a being, its flawless porcelain-white skin almost luminescent. Towering and slender, it radiated both grace and a quiet power. Its large, almond-shaped eyes were impossibly deep, and they seemed to hold the wisdom of galaxies. Moving with fluid precision, his feet hovered just above the ground, as if the very air supported him in perfect harmony. Although otherworldly, he exuded a warm and calming aura. A part of Nathan wanted to run, to escape this incomprehensible creature before him. But another part of him, the part that had felt the pull of the stars, the part that had longed for something greater, told him to stay. After all, he didn't exactly have a map home. The being spoke with a knowing truth, and Nathan was both terrified and eager to uncover. He was not sure if he was prepared for the answers, but he knew that deep down, this moment had been waiting for him all along.
My name is Oren,
Said the being. Nathan stood there, confused and staring at the incredible creature in front of him. Oren's gaze softened, the galaxies within his eyes shimmering brighter as he spoke.
Libertheria is an oasis,
He began, his voice calm yet resonant.
a sanctuary for enlightened beings from across galaxies and dimensions, including Earth. It exists alongside your world, hidden but always present.
He continues.
When you first sat beneath the stars, something stirred within you. A bridge was forming, though you were not yet strong enough to cross it.
Nate listened with heart-pounding realization.
But you returned, night after night, gazing upward, feeling the pull. With each moment of stillness, each breath of wonder, your connection deepened. The strength grew within you until the portal could finally reveal itself to you.
Oren paused, his face serene yet intense.
The stars that call to you, they're more than light. Each one is a soul of someone like you who has reached a higher state of consciousness. They burn brightly and guide those who sense them, calling out to others to help find their path. What you feel when you look at them? It's their wisdom, their presence reaching for you.
The air around them seemed to hum softly as Oren continued.
The portal opens not for the chosen, but for those who choose, those who seek true stillness and harmony. You were always meant to find your way here.
Oren's voice guided Nathan's eyes over the vibrant landscape of Libertheria.
There are others here,
Oren explained, his gaze drifting toward the horizon.
other beings from different worlds, dimensions, galaxies, each with their own story.
Before Nathan could ask, a shimmer of light rippled through the air and into the ground in front of him, and 3 figures began to materialize. They were human-like, but radiated a sense of magic, their forms shimmering and shifting as if their very essence existed beyond this physical realm. Tall, with skin like liquid silver and eyes like the deepest ocean, one of the beings moved with elegance that seemed to bend space itself. "I'm Mora," her voice echoed through Nathan's mind. Her lips did not move. "I come from a world where emotion has been suppressed for millennia. We live in peace, but it's a cold peace, devoid of the richness of the heart." Another being drifted forward, his form towering like a silhouette of shadow and light, shifting with a gentle hypnotic pulse. His voice was deep and resonant.
I'm Garwin. My people have long been enslaved to the systems of greed, built on the suffering of others. The fires of revolution burn brightly in my land, yet they bring only more pain.
Finally, an ethereal being whose skin seemed to glow with the soft hues of dawn. "I'm Elios," the figure said, the light surrounding him almost blinding. "My realm is ruled by cycles of endless war. We fight for power, for control, and we have forgotten the true meaning of unity." Nathan stood in stunned silence as each being introduced themselves, their stories floating in his mind, reaching him without words. Oren smiled softly.
These beings, called crossers, like you, come from a place where some forces that plague the world, war, greed, strife, have taken root. They have traveled far, and they have learned that true change does not come through force, but through deepening one's connection to the essence of existence, and the sanctuary of Libertheria.
He paused, his eyes meeting Nathan's.
We crossers are not here to preach, but to embody the truth. It is through the expansion of one's awareness, through the connectedness with the world, that the cosmos and others will begin to awaken. They will feel the energy, the peace, and they will naturally seek it, guided by the stars, just like you were.
Nathan blinked, trying hard to comprehend the magnitude of what Oren was saying. "But how can I help?" His voice trembled with uncertainty. "How can I help those back home?" Oren's expression softened.
You help them by being who you are, by deepening your own connection, your own enlightenment. Those who are ready will feel it, just as you felt the call of the stars. It will awaken in them, slowly, naturally. You cannot force it, Nathan. You cannot give it to them, but you can be the example. The light they will begin to see themselves.
The beings around him nodded in unison, as if they had heard these words many times before, and yet they carried an undeniable truth. Mora's voice filled his head again. "I have seen my world change, not through speeches or protests, but through acts of pure connection. When we stop seeking peace, we simply become peace. Others begin to follow." Garwin's presence loomed as he spoke.
I have learned that the systems of power can only persist as long as people give them the energy. When we stop feeding them with fear, with greed, the systems will collapse under their own weight.
Elios stepped forward, the light now bending the very air around him. "My world, we waged war for centuries, not because we wanted to, but because we had forgotten the truth of who we were. It was when we began to focus on the connection between all living beings, the unseen threads that blind us all, that the fighting ceased. The war ended not with victory, but with the realization that we had been fighting the wrong enemy." Nathan absorbed their words, feeling the weight of their experiences pressing down on him. Oren placed a hand on his shoulder as the most profound sense of peace and understanding rippled through his body.
Your journey has just begun, Nathan. You will learn that the greatest power you have is not changing others directly, but in deepening your own awareness. As you change, the world around you will change. Those ready will see it.
The energy in the air around them seemed to intensify as the beings around Nathan began to dissolve in the shimmering specks of light, each returning to their own world. Oren's words lingered in the air, wrapping themselves around Nathan's mind like a warm embrace.
You are not alone, Nathan. You are part of the greater whole. And when the time comes, you will understand how to help those who seek, just as the stars have guided you.
As the last of the figures disappeared, Nathan stood alone in the field, the vast sky above him now peaceful and still. He felt an inner shift, as if something within him had opened, like a door swinging wide, letting in the light. And with it, the understanding that he, too, was part of something far greater. The stars twinkled above softly, and Nathan felt the presence of those who had gone before him, their wisdom and peace now part of his own being. With a final knowing glance at the sky, he sat down on the grass, the sensation of connectedness now a steady hum within him. When he opened his eyes, he was in his backyard. Nathan smiled to himself as a tear fell from his eye, grasping the profound truth that he'd finally learned, and knowing that he would soon return to Libertheria. Hey everyone, just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please go like and subscribe. Also, potentially if you want to see part 2 of entering Libertheria, let me know.